Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel News But Facts. In some previous videos, I have talked about many issues which occurred for LGBTQ plus community. But today, I'm going to discuss some topics which rarely anyone raised till yet. After legalization of same-sex marriage, these topics are not raised too much earlier, but these are very important. So in 2004, same-sex marriage was legal in just one state, but over the next 11 years, marriage equality spread across the nation to 50 states and Washington, D.C. through a mix of court decisions, ballot initiatives, and laws pushed through state legislatures. The spread of marriage equality had been years in the making, going back to Massachusetts, the first state with marriage equality, when the state Supreme Court legalized same-sex marriages. It forced the public to, for the first time, seriously consider the possibility of unions between gay and lesbian couples. And this opened the door to a shift in public opinion that has culminated in majority support for marriage equality today. The US Supreme Court on June 26, 2015 struck down states' same-sex marriage bans, bringing marriage equality to the entire US. But still, there are some science-based arguments against same-sex marriage which attracts everyone's attention nowadays, and moreover, some people are facing these issues in real. So today, I'm gonna tell you some really important points which goes against same-sex marriage. First is children hunger for their biological parents. Homosexual couples using in vitro fertilization, meaning IVF or surrogate mothers, deliberately creates a class of children who will live apart from their mother or father. Yale Child Studies Center psychiatrist Kel Purett reports that children of IVF often ask their single or lesbian mothers about their fathers, asking their mothers questions like the following: Mommy, what did you do with my daddy? Can I write him a letter? Has he ever seen me? Didn't you like him? Didn't he like me? Elizabeth reports that children of divorce often report similar feelings about their non custodial parents, usually the father. Second is children needs father. Yes, if same-sex civil marriage becomes common, most same-sex couples with children would be lesbian couples. This would mean that we would have yet more children being raised apart from fathers. Among other things, we know that fathers excel in reducing antisocial behavior and delinquency in boys and sexual activity in girls. Now, what is fascinating is that fathers exercise a unique social and biological influence on their children. For instance, a recent study of father absence on girls found that the girls who grew up apart from their biological father were much more likely to experience early puberty and a teen pregnancy than girls who spent their entire childhood in an intact family. This study, along with David Popnoy's work, suggests that a father's pheromones influence the biological development of his daughter, that a strong marriage provides a model for girls of what to look for in a man and gives them the confidence to resist the sexual entities of their boyfriends. Third is children need mothers. Although homosexual men are less likely to have children than lesbians, homosexual men are and will be raising children. There will be even more if homosexual civil marriage is legalized. These households deny children a mother. Among other things, mothers excel in providing children with emotional security and in reading up physical and emotional cues of infants. Obviously, they also give their daughters unique counsel as they confront the physical, emotional, and social challenges associated with puberty and adolescence. Stanford psychologist Eleanor McCoby summarizes much of this literature in her book, The Two Sexes. Now, fourth is evidence on parenting by same sex couples is inadequate. A number of leading professional associations have asserted that there are no differences between children raised by homosexuals and those by heterosexuals. But the research in this area is quite preliminary. Most of the studies are done by advocates and most suffer from serious methodologically problems. However, the researchers warn there are significant risks associated with being part of a sexual minority family, such as social stigma, discrimination, and poor social support, and called on policymakers and legislature to give families better legal protections, social support, and access to community services like schools. The researchers said that the findings may not be universally applicable as the study drew from research conducted in areas where same sex relationships were legalized and attitude towards such families were more likely to be favorable. Fifth is evidence suggests that children raised by homosexuals are more likely to experience gender and sexual disorders. Although the evidence on children outcomes is sketchy, it does suggest that children raised by lesbians or homosexuals men are more likely to experience gender and sexual disorders. Judith Stacy, a sociologist and an advocate for same-sex civil marriage, reviewed the literature on child outcomes and found the following. Lesbian parenting may free daughters and sons from a broad but uneven range of traditional gender prescriptions. Her conclusion here is based on the studies that shows that sons of lesbians are less masculine and that the daughters of lesbians are more masculine. She also found that a significantly greater proportion of young adult children raised by lesbian mothers than those raised by heterosexual mothers reported having a homoerotic relationship. Stacy also observed that children of lesbian are more likely to report homoerotic attractions. Sixth is same-sex marriage would undercut the norm of sexual fidelity within marriage. One of the biggest threats that same-sex marriage poses to marriage is that it would probably undercut the norm of sexual fidelity in marriage. In the first edition of his book In Defense of Same-Sex Marriage, Virtually Normal, homosexual commentator Andrew Savillian wrote, there is more likely to be greater understanding of the need for extramarital outlets between two men than between a man and a woman. Of course, this line of thinking, were it incorporated into marriage and telegraphed to the public in sitcoms, magazines, and other mass media, would do enormous harm to the norm of sexual fidelity in marriage. One recent study of civil unions and marriages in Vermont suggests this is a very real concern. More than 79% of heterosexual married men and women, along with lesbians in civil unions, reported that they strongly valued sexual fidelity. Only about 50% of gay men in civil unions valued sexual fidelity. Same-sex marriage would further isolate marriage from its procreative purpose. Traditionally, marriage and procreation have been tightly connected to one another. Indeed, from a sociological perspective, the primary purpose that marriage serves is to secure a mother and father for each child who is born into a society. Now, however, many Westerners see marriage in primarily emotional terms. Among other things, the danger with this mentality is that it fosters an anti-natalist mindset that fuels population decline, which in turn puts tremendous social, political, and economic strains on the larger society. Same-sex marriage would only further undercut the procreative norm long associated with marriage insofar as it establishes that there is no necessary link between procreation and marriage. This was spelled out in the Godrich decision in Massachusetts, where the majority opinion dismissed the procreative meaning of marriage. It is no accident that the countries that have legalized or are considering legalizing same sex marriage have some of the lowest fertility rates in the world. For instance, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Canada have birth rates that, however, around 1.6 children per woman, well below the replacement fertility rate of 2.1%. Same-sex marriage would further diminish the expectation of paternal commitment. The divorce and sexual revolutions of the last 4 decades have seriously undercut the norm that couples should get and stay married if they intend to have children, are expecting a child, or already having a children. Political scientist James Q. Wilson reports that the introduction of no-fault divorce further destabilized marriage by weakening the legal and cultural meaning of the marriage contract. George Akerlof, a Nobel laureate and an economist, found that the widespread availability of contraception and abortion in the 1960s and 70s and the sexual revolution they enabled made it easier for men to abandon women they got pregnant, since they could always blame their girlfriends for not using contraception or procuring an abortion. It is plausible to suspect that legal recognition of homosexual civil marriage would have similar consequences for the institution of marriage. That is, it would further destabilize the norm that adults should sacrifice to get and stay married for the sake of their children. Why? Same sex civil marriage would institutionalize the idea that children do not need both their mother and their father. This would be particularly important for men, who are more likely to abandon their children. Homosexual civil marriage would make it even easier than it already is for men to rationalize their abandonment of their children. After all, they could tell themselves our society, which affirms lesbian couples raising children, believes that children do not need a father. So they might tell themselves, I do not need to marry or stay married to the mother of my children. Ninth is marriages thrive when spouses specialize in gender typical roles. If same sex civil marriage is institutionalized, our society would take yet another step down the road of degendering marriage. There would be more use of gender neutral language like partners, and more importantly, more social and cultural pressures to neuter our thinking and our behaviors in marriage. But marriages typically thrive when spouses specialize in gender typical ways and are attentive to the gender needs and aspirations of their husband or wife. For instance, women are happier when their husband earns the lion's shares of the household income. Likewise, couples are less likely to divorce when the wife concentrates on children and the husband concentrates on breadwinning. As University of Virginia psychologist Massive Harrington admits. Last but not the least, women and marriage domesticate men. Men who are married earn more, work harder, drink less, live longer, spend more time attending religious services, and more sexually faithful. They also see their testosterone levels drop, especially when they have children in the home. If the distinctive sexual patterns of committed gay couples are any indication, it is unlikely that homosexual marriage would domesticate men in the way that heterosexual marriages does. It is also extremely unlikely that the biological effects of the heterosexual marriage on men would also be found in homosexual marriage. Thus, gay activists who argue that same-sex civil marriage will domesticate gay men are, in all likelihood, clinging to a foolish hope. This foolish hope does not justify yet another effort to meddle with marriage. While same-sex marriage has brought significant progress for LGBTQI+ rights, it remains a topic of debate with various scientific and societal arguments against it. It's crucial to consider these perspectives to understand the full spectrum of its impact on society. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for insightful discussions on news but facts.